Hello again, this is Charlie Bellefontaine, and you're listening to the Home Buyer's Hour on WCPT AM 820, where the facts matter. And today we're going to be talking about investment properties. So we have an investor slash real estate broker, but more so on the investor side. His name is Mark Goodman. Mark, if you don't mind, introduce yourself and tell me why you're important.
Wow.
I know,
been asked that
questions.
question in a long time. Holy cow. So my name is Mark Goodman. I'm a real estate investor, a real estate broker. And for me, it's just really about finding properties to invest in, to have cash flowing rentals, which would secure my retirement and hopefully leave a legacy for my kids.
No, I like that. And give us your contact information, how people get hold of you, just in case they have any questions.
If they have any questions or even maybe for mentoring opportunities with them, that would be 773-988-5469, 773-988-5469. I would probably appreciate a text message first, if they could do that, so I know who's calling and what it's about.
Yeah, and it's always, these are never short conversations, are they?
No.
No, so it's always good to find some time to talk about it so you can help somebody, which is awesome, and we're going to dwell on that a little bit. Patrick Loftus of Loftus Law, go ahead and give us an introduction on you.
Before I introduce myself, I just want to say I feel like there's a missed opportunity here, Mark, because you sound great on the radio, and I think maybe there's a hidden talent there for broadcasting. I'm just throwing that out there.
Thank you.
I am Patrick Loftus. I am a real estate lawyer with Loftus Law. And it's important that you understand that I am a real estate lawyer. I point that out because a lot of lawyers think that they can handle real estate transactions and they can do just fine with it. And, well, maybe, but I feel like if you hire a real estate lawyer, that is going to get you a much better result in most circumstances. So if you want to get in touch with me, I sort of feel the same way Mark does about getting random calls because, let's face it, the potential the potential spammers of the world have pretty much ruined answering the phone for a phone number that's not already in your contact list.
Amen.
So don't just call me randomly because I probably won't pick up. But what you can do is you can find me on the socials. On Instagram, I am Loftus, L-O-F like Frank, T like Tom, U-S like Sam, _law. On TikTok, I am at Loftus Law.
Nice. And then remotely, we got Joey Mathews of the Federal Savings Bank. Joey, give us a shout out and tell us how people get hold of you.
Why, hello, friends. Happy morning. I am Joey Mathews, NMLS 1330694, the VA Loan Nerd. You can find me at thevaloannerd.com across all social media as at the VA Loan Nerd. You could also call or text me at 630-235-2405. I would also appreciate a text first because I will absolutely screen all my calls.
Sounds good. And my name is Charlie Bellefontaine, Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Our phone number is 312-544-9180. And today we're going to be talking about investment properties. So whether it's going to be a single-family house that you're going to look to do a flip and a remodel and then sell for a profit, or whether you're going to do, I think the term is called holding, right? Or a flip and hold or a rehab and hold, and then you do that for rental income. But I want to get the ins and outs and everything from obtaining the properties to finding renters to getting money on these sort of things. And I guess money is always the number one place to start. I mean, typically, if somebody's going to be buying a property, how much cash, what do you need? How does all that stuff go? And Mark?
So that's a great question. A lot of common newbie people would be asking that question. So having your financing lined up before you purchase a property is a good way to purchase a property. But that's
all avenues, right? That's not just investment property.
Correct. Yeah, that's all avenues. Yeah. So you need to know what you can purchase. When it comes to investing properties, you need to have a clear source of funds. There's a couple different types. There's hard money, there's private money, and then there's conventional money. Typically for an investor property, conventional money is really not going to work. It takes too long. and it may not happen for you. So you
Well, hold on, I want to know more about that. What do you mean it takes too long? And then, Joey, I'd like to have you chime in on this.
well, most investor sales are they're very competitive, and they're looking for people who can close. So if I came to you and said, "Hey, I'm interested in buying your property, Charlie. I have to get a loan. It might take 45 days." But Patrick, he's got capital either through hard money or private money, and he can close in 10 days, even if his offers may be a little less. What sounds more appealing to you?
I'm debating. I don't know.
Well,
It's I guess if I want out quick, then it's
It's a rhetorical question, and of course, it's the second
sorry.
one.
Yeah.
I'm going to answer this.
But no, so maybe I can elaborate a little bit, or let me take the words out of Mark's mouth, even though we invited him here as our guest. Especially with an investment transaction, those really operate on a different script than someone who's buying or selling the home that they lived in or intended to live in, and the certainty of that transaction closing is, I think, a lot more in question when you're dealing with investment type properties. And so I think that's kind of what you were alluding to, or
yes, that's what I was alluding to. And most people selling the property, a real estate agent or a bank, whatever, REO, they're going to want to see your proof of funds or your line of credit to actually make an offer.
And then, Joey, how long does that take? And I guess it's different when you're buying and selling multiple properties a year, and as opposed to buying your first, let's say, 3 flat in Chicago.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree. I mean, I work with a lot of investors, and typically the time that I come in with the investors when it's time for the refi, because they'll buy it, they'll rehab it, they'll rent it, they'll refi, and they'll repeat, right? The burr, right? So, no, most people do come in. They come in with the private money. And now the Fannie and Freddie have changed their seasoning rules. So, if you did get a private mortgage and that mortgage did get filed, you have to wait a year to even take the cash back out. So, I mean, for an investor, having the cash up front and then being able to get the money back out as soon as they're done with the work they're going to do and they're renting it already, that's usually when I come in and do the refinance for the property. So, no, I agree. If you're trying to get it up front, it is much easier to go cash or private money for sure.
All right. I have so many questions here.
Yeah, jump in, because
Right.
after you, I'm going.
Yeah. So, okay. And look, it's not that I don't already know this, but the audience is likely not to know a lot of the jargon that we're using. So I think a good place to start would be to differentiate between a hard money loan, a private money loan, and a conventional loan.
Thank
you. So a hard money loan is going to be from possibly like an institution who has money to lend to investors. It's at higher rates. Okay.
And what do you mean by institution? I mean, are we talking mafia?
No, we're not talking mafia. We're not talking any street taxes or anything like
It's
that.
the outfit.
Not in my neck of the woods, anyways.
All right. Charlie's coming from left field with
That's
that.
right.
I don't know.
I'm sorry. I watched all the seasons of Sopranos.
I was a firefighter in Cicero for a while. I got some guys for you.
We got a guy.
He's got a guy. There you go.
Yeah.
Just what you need. So an institution could be, it could be just an investor. Patrick might have a client who has a lot of money, who doesn't want to actually own any properties, but he just wants to lend money, and he hires a loan officer to administer these funds and loan them out to people who want to invest in properties. That could be an example of a institution type hard money. Private money is basically relationship based. So that would be where an investor has a specific relationship with someone who actually has funds to close, and they would lend them the money. It's recorded on the deed, and they would do usually the BRRRR method, or possibly
And the BRRRR method again is
buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat.
Okay.
Hold on, let me write that down.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do that.
It's a lot of R's. A lot of R's.
Yeah, that's why I heard the brrrr.
Yeah, it's BRRRR. There you go.
All right, I'm learning something.
So oftentimes that's the preferred method, because an investor can actually get funds oftentimes within 10 days, 14 days, 2 weeks. So, for example, Charlie, you could go find a property today, possibly find a good deal, and if you have a good relationship with a private money lender, you could secure the funds and close on the property in 2 weeks. This is very attractive to people who are motivated sellers.
Well,
So
how
if
do you
you've got-
find some? I'm sorry, Patrick, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think I was going to kind of answer your question in a way. So if let's say you've got a friend from high school who you golf with every Friday morning who's a doctor. Doctors tend to have more money than they know what to do with. And if you can present them with an opportunity to invest that money and make a good return, they will often take you up on it.
Sounds fair?
And what would be a good return?
So typically a private investor would get 2% for lending the money and 1% per month. Typically these are 6, 7, 8-month loans depending upon the size of the project and the scope of work.
So and then right, so private basically you've got a friend or you've got a some sort of colleague or whatever it is who's got some dough and you're offering them a nice return on their money, and as long as it goes well, you can keep golfing with them every Friday. If it goes south, then you're gonna have to find a new golfing buddy. Now with a hard money loan, my experience has been that those can be quite risky. Am I correct, or have I misinterpreted that?
Well, it's not that it's risky. What I would say is that if a hard money lender is going to give you the money, they've probably really scrutinized the deal and gone through the numbers forwards and backwards 5 or 6 times to make sure that the numbers actually make sense, that they're lending on a good property, a good opportunity. Now, typically they might only lend 65% of that back end value or the after repair value. So you would need some of your own funds.
And that's pretty much always, right?
Sometimes with private money lenders, you might not need any of your own funds.
And how do you find private money lenders? I mean, do you have to know a doctor that you play golf
No.
with? Only, what is it,
No,
Tuesdays? I don't know what.
Fridays.
Fridays are golf
Yeah,
days.
yeah,
Okay.
the Tuesday golfing buddy. He ain't got that kind of money.
Thank you. So how does somebody find some, private lender?
Statistically, if there's 10 people in the room, 6 of them have money. So most likely they're all around you. You just might not know it, or aren't looking for it, or aren't having those conversations.
Right. It's hard to ask your buddy for a loan, right? I mean, these are the types of things that, polite people don't talk about.
Well, I've always had an old saying: the fastest way to mess up a relationship is to mess with the money. And you don't want to borrow money from friends just because if something does go sour, well, then you ruin that relationship that you've had for a long time. Business is business, and then personal is personal. I personally, and you tell me I'm wrong, please, I would like to keep them separate.
Well, you can absolutely keep them separate. You don't ever have to borrow money from people that you know are related to or have close interactions with, or family. But you're also closing a lot of doors there as well on people who might be looking for a good, safe return without actually necessarily owning real estate or having to deal with day-to-day management or tenants.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
This is the kind of thing I reckon gets talked about a lot, at country clubs. If you are a member, you've joined, you're a member of a country club. Usually that takes some dough, and everyone else surrounding you is also, has those kind of resources, and it's the kind of thing where you might not love golf, but you might want to be surrounded by some people with some dough so that you have these kinds of opportunities more often.
That's a great way to put it, and it's about hanging out with the people that maybe can make it happen for you.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, you mentioned earlier that you do mentoring.
Yes.
All right. And I think we were talking a little bit earlier about the difference between mentoring and coaching. What's the difference?
We can debate on this one.
I think we did debate this one earlier.
Right. Here's an elephant. In most cases, coaches are getting paid a fee.
All right.
And they're maybe working by the hour. A lot of times mentorship, while it might have a small price tag to it, you probably have more of a one-on-one relationship with someone that's mentoring, someone that you can call, someone that you can, reach out to with questions, who will, give you a straight answer, or maybe go look at that property with you, or help you run your numbers. something like that.
Well, what's in it for you? Why should you mentor somebody? Because you mentioned that if somebody's interested in mentoring to come and get hold of you, you know, do you do it out of the kindness of your heart, or is there something with relationships that you could build to make things work better?
Well, everyone is always looking to build relationships. So if you can always make things better, then that's always good too. So at the end of the day, there's really not a cost to it other than time, but it's about giving back too. And being able to help people maybe through their first project or their second, or, you know, who do I call for this, or what do I do with this, or, you know.
Yeah, I think there's an element, certainly, when you talk about mentoring, at least the way I conceive of it, of paying it forward. At some point in our careers, there has been someone or some ones who, whether they knew it or not, was helping us to get to where we got to today. And it wasn't always just a transactional sort of relationship. And to the extent that anyone doesn't think that's true, I would recommend maybe rethinking that, because none of us got here to where we are at without other people involved. So I think that's one aspect to it. But in addition, in terms, if you're looking at what's in it for me, other than having that nice, good feeling that I helped someone, you're developing, I think, a very loyal, close contact who you're going to have opportunities for that to become a more symbiotic relationship as that progresses. You know, good mentoring relationship is, you know, that can be quite a deep relationship that gets developed, and at some point in time when that person sort of you know, turns from the ugly duckling into the swan, then now they're a colleague. Now they are someone that who you know, you might be able to bounce some questions, some ideas off of, and I think that there's value there as well.
And more so to that, you both of you are making me reflect here quite a bit. You know, I try to build a reputation amongst other home inspectors in my profession that if somebody has questions and that, I'm just going to be as honest and open as I can. And I've helped quite a few people get into this business and become successful, and I don't look for anything in return. But it's amazing how many, I mean, I guess you call it karma, but how much in return and how things have come to benefit me personally. And I did not look for it. It just happens when that stuff comes in there.
Yeah, I don't think that there's necessarily a science to that, but I think that there are enough coincidences out there where this sort of thing ends up being the result, where you say to yourself, you know, what I put out there in the world reflects back on me. And so if you are a good shepherd, you know, Charlie, I know you believe strongly that the home inspection business is a noble endeavor, and you want to elevate that profession as much as you can, because it's a worthy thing to elevate.
Without a doubt. I believe we're the most important part of that whole real estate transaction.
There you go.
And yet we're too undereducated.
Well, you know, other than the lawyer, of course, I think you're right.
This is
what about the investor or the mortgage guy? What about them?
Who cares? No, you know, we just, of course. But Charlie, I mean, I've heard people talk in other parts of the world about the usefulness of the home inspection, and depending on where you are, there are many places where it's looked down upon. It's like, what do you really do here? And Charlie, I know for a fact, we've worked together. I know that you add a tremendous amount of value to the transactions that you're made a part of. And you know, that's the more people that you can mentor into having the kind of passion and the kind of you know, how serious you take this, then that in turn is going to elevate the profession, you know, more broadly speaking, and there's value to that as well.
No, I am a believer in giving and stuff like that, which is cool. But I want to get back onto the investing stuff. Now, Mark, if with your private lenders, you have people that know you know them, you trust each other. you have private lenders. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. And do you share those people or introduce those people to other investors that are looking to come into the business? Or is that a case by case?
I would say probably not. They need to develop their own relationships.
Okay. And again, other than family members, is there a place to go where somebody can find a group of people looking to invest, other than country clubs?
Yeah.
Charlie doesn't like golf.
I love golf. Don't get me wrong.
Golf is fun, but it takes too much time.
Yeah.
Who's got 4 hours, 5 hours to go on a golf course? I don't know.
What are you talking about? It takes an hour and a half. It's just that windmill thing is the only one to get through. That's hard.
So, real estate meetups, networking at real estate events.
Yeah.
That's a great place to meet like-minded people.
Outstanding. And do you go to stuff like that? Do you belong to groups like that?
Yes. As a fact, I do. I do go to meetings, some virtual, some in person. And I go to the Chicago RIA.
What is Chicago RIA?
It's a real estate investment group. They're out of Lombard.
All right. And that just has a bunch of different people from accountants, attorneys, I assume inspectors as well.
It's my understanding it's the nation's largest real estate investment organization, and I think there's 15 or 20,000 people who are members of it.
That's a pretty big number.
Yeah, that's that does span a couple states, but most of them are here in Chicago.
Nice.
Now, I also go to meetings, but it has nothing to do with real estate. It's different.
All right, I have no idea where you're going with that one. Part of it scares me to ask.
Yeah, let's just leave that one behind.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, I'm not supposed to talk about it.
Joey, here's something you guys mentioned the BRRRR, borrow and then all the R's that come in there. Are there any special things that somebody should be aware of if they're going private and then they want to switch to conventional? Does that come into? I guess what do I need to know about that? Making that switch.
Well, it can. So if you're going to take the cash out after you buy within the first 6 months, that's called delayed financing, and you can only borrow up to what you actually bought the house. I'm sorry, 70. You can only borrow up to 75% of what you bought the house for originally, right? Because it's an investment property. So that's called delayed financing. If you took a mortgage out on the property with a private mortgage with anyone, if a mortgage was filed with the county, then you're going to be in a 12-month window where you can't take cash out outside of at all. You can't take cash out at all. They just updated that with Fannie and Freddie this past year, a couple months ago.
Now, you said something there that I need to know more on. You said it was 25% of the purchase price or 75% of the purchase price.
75% of the purchase price. Sorry. When I deal with the LTV, loan to value, and equity all the time, so I always flip them because,
No, I got
math
it.
hard.
But now let's say that I'm buying a property, and I'm going to use some recent numbers that I've heard of. I'm going to buy a property for $160,000. It's a 7-unit apartment building, and then I have to put $200,000 into it. So are you telling me that if I got 160, that means I can only get 120 mortgage?
Yeah, well, actually, on a 4-unit, you're only going to be able to get 70%, so I apologize.
So this is a commercial example. 4 units and under would be residential. So maybe we'll just make it a 4-unit building.
All right.
And use the same numbers.
And what does that come into play then? So I got 160 purchase, 200 going into it. Let's say each one of these units, I'm making up numbers, is going to bring in $2,000 average for the 4 units. So that's going to be $8,000 monthly income. What can I borrow after my private lending?
So if you wait for that full year period to elapse since you took out the mortgage, assuming you took out the mortgage, then it would be based off of a new appraisal, right? So if you appraise at $600,000, then you could take out 70% of that $600,000. So what? You lose $180K, so $420,000 would be your max loan amount on that. If you don't take out a mortgage and you go beyond the 6 months for delayed financing, then you can do a full cash out with a new appraisal, because there's no mortgage recorded. So we would be able to just do a cash out with a new appraisal on it. So, but then you're still going to be limited because it's the multi-unit, so you have to end up at no higher or no lower than a 30% equity position. But that, again, that is retail residential. That is not commercial. And I don't touch commercial, so I can't even speak on it.
Right.
Oh, I got that. And then, yeah, But it's still money, and I'm still trying to figure out how we get all this finances. What is a typical length of time for a private lend?
So it kind of depends on the project. Oftentimes they're 6 months, maybe 7 or 8 months, depending upon the project. So,
that doesn't jive with what Joey's telling me. It takes a year.
Well, what he's saying is a seasoning issue.
Seasoning, yes.
So explain that to me, please.
Go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, so if you take out a mortgage to buy the place, from the day that you took out that mortgage, you cannot refinance to get cash out for a year. The rule used to be 6 months. It is now a year. Fannie and Freddie just changed that literally, I think it was 2 months ago. Might have been 3.
But you can do a rate and term.
You could rate term it. You could rate term it, yeah.
Right.
Explain that to me then, please.
Go ahead, Joey.
You're not getting cash out. So you have the mortgage that you have on it, right, with the private lender, right?
Yeah.
So let's say that's at a 12% because it's higher. You could do a rate term refi where you are just refinancing the balance and plus whatever fees
Closing
to
costs.
lower your rate, lower your pay. Yeah, exactly. Closing costs to lower your payment.
And you can or you cannot roll in your rehab.
You cannot.
You cannot. That makes it kind of difficult.
No,
there,
because
doesn't it?
that's a cash out refi.
And so you do
You're
something
taking-
like that, you got to wait the year.
If you took out a mortgage, yes.
Interesting.
No one said this was easy, right?
No one did.
I should say, not even if you took out the mortgage, if the mortgage was actually filed with the county, because I've seen people not file the mortgage.
Risky.
Yeah,
It
you
is
have to file the
risky.
mortgage. You have to file the
Yeah.
mortgage.
I was going to say that seems kind of dangerous on
It
one
is
or two
dangerous.
people. Yeah.
I've seen it. I'm not saying do it. I've just seen it.
Yeah, you'd have to get a title company willing to play ball on that one, and that's not going to be one of the title companies I typically work with. I'm
It
sure
doesn't
they're
seem
out
to
there.
pass the red face test,
It's not ideal. I mean, look, it just really depends on who you're working with, what their risk tolerance is. But it sounds to me like the sort of the route one, I suppose, way to do it is if you're borrowing money on an 8-month term, and then you refinance out on a short term just to repay that loan, so that you can survive until the 1 year seasoning has passed, and then you can get the long term refi. You could thread those needles. It's just not easy.
So, Joey, on what you're talking about with the 12-month seasoning, that's specific to someone using an FHA purchase?
That is conventional.
Conventional.
Yeah. So if you took out a mortgage when you bought, Fannie and Freddie, well, FHFA, the Federal Housing Finance Agency, they just updated the rules from 6-month seasoning to take cash out on a property to a full year.
Oh, so this is all new.
This is new. This is new. And this is why it matters that people stay up to date on their guidelines.
And
Because otherwise you're going to make people think they're getting a bunch of money and then they have to wait another 7 months and play the market.
And that's the heartbreak stuff that comes into play. We'll chat on that a little bit because I know that I sent a vet over to you, and I kind of want to touch bases on that a little bit. But before we do that, Patrick, you deal with a lot of investors as well. What percentage of contracts come across your desk that are investors only that don't go through? The sale does not go through.
I'm not going to give you an official number
Give
because
me
I
a
don't
guess.
have one, but I'd say I expect about a 50-50.
Whoa, really that high?
Yeah. It really follows a different script, and I'd say from the get-go, when you're talking about an investor versus someone who's going to be an owner-occupant, first of all, the emotional aspect of it is turned way down when you're an investor. And
because it's business, right? It's just money.
Yeah, I mean, there's
I'm
always
not attached to anything. I get it.
There's always emotions, but once you plug the numbers into your spreadsheet and you figure out whether it's going to return you enough of a percentage or enough of a gross or net, I guess.
Equity position and or cash flow.
There you go. He's got better words than I do for it, but
explain those words to me real quick. Equity, cash flow, and what was the third one?
Well, it was equity position, and I said and or cash flow. It'd be great to have both. Sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. So equity is the amount of value you have left in the property after you have a loan on it. So
Okay.
if I have a loan for $80,000 and my property's worth $100,000, I have $20,000 equity.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a simple example. So cash flowing is if my total expenses, my principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payment comes out to $750, and I can rent it for $1,000, I would have cash flow of $250.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. So once those numbers don't work, then the investor, by and large, is going to say, "I'm no longer interested in this property." Now, that's really the simplest way to talk about it. There are also investors. Not every investor has got the same strategy. So, we talked a few months ago with Noah Burke, for example. He handles. I think we at the time said that he does the top volume of multifamily residential in the city.
Yeah.
What he talked about is getting all the cards on the table as soon as possible, because it's the surprises that kill deals.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be the ideal way to go about things. And if everybody had that in mind, this business would be, I think, much simpler. Now, not every seller wants to put all the cards out there on the table. They think, well, I'm going to let the seller go through their paces and figure out some things on their own. Yeah, okay. You might be able to employ that strategy to get more money out of the deal at the end of the day, but also you're putting yourself in a much greater probability that once that buyer finds out about the warts on the property, that they're going to say, "It doesn't work anymore, I'm out." So you're not really valuing your own time as far as that goes. There are other buyers who will just get property under contract, and the price is sort of secondary. They just want to lock it up so that then they have essentially at that point an exclusive right to negotiate you down as a seller. Those are not buyers you want to really get involved with, because largely they're going to be wasting your time. These are often high volume people who are going to they're going to be very liberal about the properties that they put under contract, knowing that they can basically back out at any point before you lock in at attorney review and inspection and get their earnest money back. And it's no skin off their nose if they can't get the deal that they were hoping to get when they put it under contract. And again, that's going to lead to a lot of time wasting, assuming you've got a seller that doesn't have the same idea of what the value of that property is. So those are some examples of situations and reasons why so often these investor transactions fall apart as frequently as they do.
Patrick, if somebody has questions about real estate and real estate law, how do they get hold of you?
I think my recommendation to get a hold of me would be to send me an email. And you would do that by emailing patrick@loftus.law.
All right. And is there a phone number that they could text you?
I mean, they could, and as long as it's not sup, give me some context as to
or
why.
maybe it's that I've seen your profile. Facebook says we should get to know each other a little bit more.
Too many of those.
Yeah, oh my God. I got like 6,000 blocks
Block
because of
and
all those.
report.
Exactly.
Till they move on to the next thing. If you're so inclined, I mean, it's right there below my face, but 773-632-8330 if you're just listening.
Sounds good. And Joey, same thing. Somebody has questions about mortgages. How do they get hold of you?
Well, you can call or text me at 630-235-2405. You can find me on social media at the VA Loan Nerd, or visit me at thevaloannerd.com.
Sounds good. And my name is Charlie Bellefontaine. I own Chicagoland Home Inspectors. I do not charge to talk on the phone. Our phone number is 312-544-9180, and you're going to hear a prompt there that says, press number 2 to talk to an actual human being. Well, that human being was going to be me. So if I'm available, I'll pick up and we can go ahead and I'll do anything I can to help you. And then, Mark, you're the last in our line. How do people get hold of you if they got questions on investing?
So they can reach out to me. Send me a text message, please, 773-988-5469.
One more time, a little slower.
773 988-5469. Kind of like Luna, but not exactly.
Now, you have
we are not getting any money from Luna, so I would appreciate it if you would.
We're not going to say anything bad about them either.
We won't say anything bad about any. Never mind.
So,
in spirit, I'm still waiting.
I kind of want to throw.
Come at me, Spirit.
Would you behave? I want to throw the same question at you, Mark, that I threw at that I threw at Patrick here. If what percentage of homes do you bid on or buy on that the deal falls through? And I'm talking about purchases, not sells.
Yeah. So I don't really keep track of that statistic.
A rough estimate is good.
I would say maybe 1 in 5.
All right, so that's 20% do not go through.
20% do not go
80%
through.
do go through. All right, what do you do differently than the people that are going with Patrick over here? Why 50 and 80? Those are two big numbers. They're different.
Right. Well, I'm agreeing with what, mostly what Patrick's saying, but from an investor point of view, the numbers have to make sense. And if we're all basing our purchase on that after repair value, what that house is going to appraise or sell for when it's all fixed up, when it's all made brand new. And if the amount of repairs plus the purchase price and the holding costs exceed a certain point or a certain threshold where there's no equity and there's no cash flow, it's not a good deal.
And now, do you explain that to the sellers at all, or you don't even waste your time and let them figure it out on their own?
You know what? Most of them don't even care to listen to it. They're just looking for a number or a net.
Yeah, and I think one thing, what Mark just said, is that he's going into these transactions with the purpose of already fixing up a bunch of things, in which case...
They're all as is, basically.
Yeah, so if you're not just strictly trying to buy and hold something without spending additional funds post-closing, then the numbers just have to work. So once the inspection happens and you go, oh, well, this is a roof that needs to be replaced like yesterday, and I've got 6 aging furnaces, all 30 years old, that are going to need to get replaced, and you start factoring that into the numbers, all of a sudden that green number turns red and you're done. Whereas if you already were, if in that spreadsheet already was, well, this roof is a tear off, and I'm going to have to waterproof the basement, I'm going to have to do this and this, I think you've got a stronger likelihood of success.
But a lot of these houses, there's somebody, I guess the word have to or need to, those are two real tough words in my vocabulary that I just personally hate, because we don't always need to do everything. We don't have to do everything. And I've seen some houses that are in bad shape. So I guess where I'm confused here, do you find these things, Mark, when you're looking at the houses, or do you find them after you go under contract to figure out what do I need to do?
Sometimes both. So, the process is find a house, maybe look at it online, schedule an appointment, go see it. If I like it, I would try to get under contract, get a general contractor there to walk through it, and I would hire a home inspector. Patrick, do you know any home inspectors?
Off the top of my head, poor Charlie. I really, at some point, I've really got to stop picking on Charlie because it's not.
No, don't stop now.
Fair.
No, it's totally fine.
It's only because we like him.
Yeah, Charlie, I wouldn't pick on you if I didn't care about you. So
Thank you. I think. Thank you.
So I would hire a home inspector like yourself to get out there and inspect the house. I'm looking for foundational issues, mold, making sure that the electric's right, plumbing's right. There's a lot of issues that could impact your rehab budget or whatever you perceive it to be, maybe just walking through the property, because oftentimes it changes once you have a home inspection or your general contractor walks through it.
So you mentioned water entry a couple times. You mentioned once with the mold. Well, we need water to make the mold, and then you also mentioned, I assume, basements.
Yes.
And for perimeter drain tiles and stuff like that. What are your big must-dos, the have-tos, the need-tos, as opposed to the wants?
Well, if you're going to rent a house, any family, they want a house that's, clean, safe, and doesn't have issues with mold or other things that could cause harm to their family, right? This is a common want, and we all understand that. So,
I mean, is there any liability on your part if there is mold in a property and somebody's living there?
well,
Why are you giggling?
Is it the mold there when I'm buying the property and I remediate it, or it comes back because they don't put the shower fan on and it sucks out the moisture and there's not enough ventilation in the bathroom and maybe mold starts growing on the ceiling?
I think the answer to your question, Charlie, is maybe.
Or it depends, right?
Ah,
It seems
my
like it's
favorite.
always the case.
That is, yeah. I should just get that tattooed somewhere on me, and I can just be like,
Right on the forehead. Keep it simple. That would be good. And the sad thing is I've been using that because doing the follow-ups with the clients and talking to our clients about the ramifications of the issues that we have going on there, it always comes back. Well, do I have to fix this? Well, it depends.
there's not a lot of black and white out there, and quite frankly, where an issue is so far on the spectrum that it is closer to black or white. It's actually usually easier to evaluate. It's that gray area stuff that is just. It's hard to really definitively tell someone one way or the other. It's sort of a trust your gut situation.
Yeah, if it's in the crawl space or in the basement because there's seepage or a foundation leak, that's different.
How is that different?
Well, I mean, that's really on you as the property owner to take care of that and cure that.
Okay.
If the tenant, it's rented and the tenant is not utilizing the fan because they don't want to, because they like it warm when they take their shower.
I do.
And there's no ventilation.
Yeah.
Oh, so do I, but I always have a fan on.
Do you wire your fan and your lights together so that when someone turns the lights on? I just heard this is a
in a
trick.
rental, I would do that 100% of the time.
Really?
Yes.
I have heard that quite a bit. And I'm like, I want these things separate, and then I want to get the most powerful fan that's the quietest fan. I want it to be able to suck a stink off a pig coming out of that thing if it has to,
See, I think I would go a third direction. I would get one of those fans that is moisture detecting, and that it goes on when the moisture happens.
I did that in our basement bathroom, and it just doesn't work well enough. I got to say, it seems too humid down there, and I end up turning it off and on so it goes on all the time.
Well, in a basement, you could put a dehumidifier down there. That wouldn't be an issue, but you can't really have a dehumidifier in a bathroom.
No,
There's
I
really
guess
no room for it.
you're adding a lot of humidity.
A lot of ways to skin this cat, evidently.
Yeah, and the sad thing about that, since we're talking about bathroom venting, a lot of people don't realize if that bathroom has a window, it's not mandatory that you have a fan in there. But my thought process is, who the heck is going to be showering with the window open? In
January.
In January,
Yeah.
exactly. It's not going to be this guy. I got to turn. I want that thing to be a steam room in there.
Well, you know what I love is how often I see a bathroom fan that is it's there. You look at it, you go, oh, yeah, there it works, and you stick your head in the attic and you go, where does it go? And
We
it
just
doesn't
had
go
that
anywhere.
yesterday. Yeah.
So often, and you go, man, lazy contractor.
Or forgetful.
Yeah.
Sometimes
You're too kind.
Cutting corners.
You're being too
sometimes
nice.
things miss. We've been on new construction homes where they forgot to put the insulation in the attic. We go up in there, we see all the structure and just the drywall, and there's nothing that's blown in there at all in the basement. So
Yeah.
it does happen. I
Come
get
on,
it. There's bad
forgot.
people, but sometimes it does happen.
It
So-
makes you wonder.
Yeah.
I'm not wondering. I have a very cut and dry opinion about that. You forgot to blow the insulation in. Give me a break, man.
Yeah, well, your guys are all laughing. You don't trust the other humans in this world, or what?
Not that guy.
Not that guy.
Just not that one.
Nah, come on. You call yourself a contractor?
You got to be able to have the checklist or whatever and get it all done.
I could show you a checklist. My dad was a developer before he retired, and man, he just got checklists galore.
So, what is a typical recipe? I know you're down in the south suburbs, and you seem to know the neighborhoods that you buy in. You know what the rent rates are. You know what the property values are. You know how long things have been on the market. You have quite a bit of knowledge when it comes to all this stuff. So what is a typical recipe for how much are you going to pay to buy, what are you going to put to invest, figuring out what you can either sell or rent for.
So I like to use 70% of the after repair value, or what the appraisal or sale price would be.
Okay.
Subtracting the rehab cost.
Go into more detail on that. What is
so if I have a house that's worth $100,000, I'll keep it simple.
Please.
Okay. 70% of that is $70,000.
Yeah.
Minus maybe it needs $30,000 in rehab. So now my purchase price is probably going to be somewhere just below 40 to account for some of the holding cost and maybe the surprises that might happen.
Do people get insulted when you come at them with the $40,000 bid when they're asking 70?
I mean, sometimes they hope to get 70, but when that property's on the market 90 days later and it's been on and off contract, they get more humble.
And is that all public record, or do you need a real estate license to see that stuff?
You can see that on Redfin or Zillow, so it's public.
When something's gone under contract, how long it's been on the market, how many people backed out of it. That's what you're telling me I could see on there.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So I guess
just
I never
look in the history on Zillow or Redfin.
Interesting.
I don't think you'll see the contract price, but yeah, you'll
see
how
you
many
won't
times,
see the contract price.
You'll see how many times it's fallen through, how long it's been on the market. One thing I've heard from real estate investors, as far as a little trick is, and since we're talking about the south suburbs, this came across my mind, is a lot of the south suburbs have point of sale inspection requirements.
Yes.
And with some exception as far as how that all plays out. But if you are buying property, especially REO property in those places, it's kind of a little tricky way to have the municipality, because with REO, you're often, unless there's like water gushing somewhere, you're probably not going to get them to make any repairs. But if the point of sale inspection requires repairs, meaning the village inspector comes through and says this and this needs to be repaired, you at least have some way of that property being at least compliant with what that inspector wanted. I don't know. I'm just sort of throwing that out there. Is that one thing?
No, the point of sale inspection is a tool that I would definitely use or want to see as I make an offer and try to determine what needs to be done or a scope of work.
Who does that? I mean, I know it's the village or the town or city, whatever it is, but who pays for that?
Typically the buyer would.
The buyer would. Okay.
Yeah, the buyer would, or it becomes a seller's cost. I guess that's fair for negotiation.
So that doesn't happen until the house is under contract, or does that happen when it's listed, I guess?
Well, typically, great question. So typically those inspections have a shelf life of 6 months. So you're hopeful, if you're the listing agent, that when the first contract came through that it's going to work, and then you schedule it. But if it falls apart, another one comes along a month later, falls apart, now you're might be looking at a dated inspection, and they might have to do it again because it's not compliant.
Interesting. We're getting towards the end of our hour. I know it goes by really quick.
That's by really fast.
Yeah, no lie. But recently I sent a client or a potential client. They called us for a home inspection, and this gentleman was a veteran, and he's buying up in the north suburbs and that. And I put him over to Joey, and I just wanted to touch base on this, Joey. If you can give us an update real quick. What went down? I know that somebody that did not have experience writing a veteran mortgage or a VA mortgage made a lot of mistakes.
No, I mean, it's just the upfront stuff. It obviously wasn't done or wasn't understood. I know that the COE didn't get pulled, the certificate of eligibility, which is step number one whenever you're doing a VA loan if you're a loan officer before you pre-approve. But also when they did the disclosures, the guy's only income is coming from, or not the only income, but a majority of his income is coming from VA disability, and the guy disclosed a 3.6% funding fee. That's one, the guy's a first-time buyer, so it's no more than a 2.3% funding fee if you're a nerd like me. But second, he's also receiving disability, so he's exempt from the funding fee. So it should have never been disclosed in the first place. It's just completely it's like screaming from a mountaintop. I've never done a VA loan in my life, but here, let's give it a go. So yeah.
And I got to tell you, that's one of the reasons why I'm so thankful for you and Patrick being here all the time, educating me on these things, that now when I talk to somebody, even though I'm not the mortgage guy, I can go ahead and start recognizing these things and saying something's a little bit goofy, and then I could go ahead and put them in line or in touch with you two. Joey, how does somebody get hold of you if they want to get more questions on any sort of mortgage, whether it's investing or veterans?
Yeah, no, I do everything. I just focus on the VA loan because it's so easily screwed up. 630-235-2405. Find me at thevaloannerd.com or social media as at the VA Loan Nerd.
Sounds good. And then just recently, my favorite real estate attorney made fun of me. He sent me a photo. Imagine that. It's like almost every week he makes fun of me. But he sends me a photo of one of our home inspection reports where our inspector took a picture. It was a condo inspection. And he took a picture of the front door in the hallway as like the cover picture of the house. And he sends it to me, and he didn't give me much detail on everything right away. And I'm like, well, who the heck would do that? And it turned out it was our company. So I gave our inspector a little bit of razzing on that too. It's like, take a picture of the front of the building. We'll do a little commercial stuff here.
Maybe it was raining out that day.
Maybe it was. That's a good point.
There's nothing wrong with the report. I just thought, this isn't. I wouldn't use this one.
I gotcha, Patrick. If they have questions, how do they get hold of you?
You should find me on socials. That's where I want to be found these days. On Instagram, you can find me at Loftus_law. On TikTok, you'll find me at Loftus Law. I don't know. Sometimes I think to myself, what is the most misunderstood loan product out there? And I don't know. Maybe I would seek out the VA Loan Nerd if I wanted to know more about that.
Nice little plugs coming in here, which is awesome.
Hearts.
Here it is. And we got a little screaming hearts in the background.
Did you do that
I
on
love
purpose?
it. I think he did. Unbelievable. Mark, thank you for being on the show with us today. If somebody has questions about investing, and thank you for being open and answering those questions, how do they get hold of you?
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed this. So they can get hold of me at 773-988-5469, 773-988-5469 for that text message.
And I think you're starting a podcast of your own right now, aren't you?
No, not yet. Getting there soon.
All right. What's the name of it? You want to give us a quick leader?
No, don't have the name yet. Still working on it.
All right,
I'll
then
let you
listen
know.
to our podcast right here. So my name is Charlie Bellefontaine with Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Our website is www.thehomeinspectors, that's plural, O-R-S, and that's a .com. Our phone number is 312-544-9180. Repeating, 312-544-9180. I want to give a special thank you to Devin Tingle. He's our producer. He's waving in the other room right now, and he's the one that makes all this stuff work. I'm very thankful to WCPT Studios putting us on the air each week. We're about a year and a half into doing this radio show, if you can believe that. So we're just very thankful for everything. Again, my name is Charlie. Thank you for listening, and I am out.